that the way you get to a next level is through catastrophic events.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. Yo, man. Boom, it's Rusty. What's up, everybody? This is Rusty Diamond. This is the Public Access Podcast, the podcast here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. I am your host, Rusty Diamond, and you can check this show out on YouTube. You can check it out on Rumble or listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can check me out, rustydiamond.net, hypnosisisgreat.com, or popuphealing.net. And it's time for me to bring on my special guest right here and right now. This is episode 610 on November 19th, 2024. Season 12 now, which was started last one. We've gone 11 whole years. So my special guest right here and right now is Russell Little. So life disruption, pattern interrupt, whatever you want to call it. Was that something that you were, is more new to you, or is that something that you've always kind of gone by?
It's something I developed in my self education once you get your degrees and you start your life, that's not the end of your education. Then you start reading literature and you never stop. And over the course of my life, uh, I was worried about and also seeing my parents, but watching life as people get older, they're like a bug on the top of a creek floating down the stream. And I didn't want to move time through time like that. I wanted to be at the bottom of the creek, feeling the sand hit me as I went so I could feel the movement of time. And so my life, I patterned my life so the older I got, the more I had to disrupt it so I could feel the pattern of time. And that's something I developed and believed and have done and lived my life by.
So you're interrupting the pattern with a pattern, or the pattern is that what it is? Is you have
Well,
a pattern of interrupting the pattern,
it depends on what's going on in your life, right? When I'm
right?
practicing law in Houston, the practice of law is not a real uh, movable occupation. You can't just move from Houston, where I did divorce and criminal law and trial law, and pop in the hills of Georgia and say, "Hey, I'm here. I can practice here," because I can't practice here, right? So
Right.
you disrupt it in other ways. Like when I finally finished my first book was after my youngest son was leaving for college, and he put his hand on my back and said, "Dad, it's time for you to finish. You're running out of time." And
Finish
so
what?
finished the book because I had started it so many times during my life, but I was busy raising kids. I had my business. I was trying to be a good husband. I've been married to the same woman for 41 years. It actually becomes harder work the longer you're married, not easier. And but all my kids had left for college at that point. It was time to finish the book. So that was a major disruption because I completely changed my life. And then at another point during my 50s, we became minimalist. We had raised our family in Memorial in Houston, very stereotypical upper middle class, the way you would think lawyers would raise their family. And we did, after
Yeah.
the kids were gone, after a while, we decided, okay, everyone's buying ranches and moving out to ranches. We're doing the opposite. So we sold everything And we moved to a high rise downtown because that's the opposite.
In Houston?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where we went through Harvey, which is something I write about in the second book. And then my wife got an incredible offer and she didn't want to refuse it. So I retired from the practice of law, just write books now, and I can do that anywhere. So we moved from Houston, where we've been for 42 years. We moved to the hills of Georgia, and man, has it been a disruption.
What's an example of that disruption since you've been there?
Well, all the family lives in Houston, all the friends are in Houston. So you're you're starting new on everything. Like I'm a cigar smoker. I had a cigar bar. That's where I would write in the afternoons while I was having a cigar in the cigar bar. That's gone. I don't
What's
have a cigar bar here.
what's taking its place?
The dining room.
The dining room.
Yes.
What's your setup like in the dining room?
Um, well, I try to get up about 4:30 in the morning.
Cool. Do you watch the sunrise?
No, because I'm writing.
Okay.
I get up at 4:30. I respond to my publicity agent. I
Yeah.
do what they tell me. For it takes me about 15 or 20 minutes of that. That's when I contacted with you.
Okay.
You probably didn't read it at 4:30 in the morning, though.
No, but I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm up about 4:30 in the morning every day too. So I
You
just
must be a stoic.
no, I was raised Catholic. No, it's a bad joke.
You can be Catholic and stoic.
No, I'm not Catholic anymore. But I mean, yeah, like I just, it's all right. I don't know. I like being up early. I've seen a million sunsets, but how many sunrises have I seen?
Ah,
Like there's something like I've told this on here before. Like I had a couple chickens that I raised from little chicks and thought they were hens and found out that they were roosters and they would go outside the door and or outside the bedroom window and they'd start crowing in the morning and then I started thinking, I'm like, they're getting up early, like what are they doing that I'm missing out on, like what's going on, like what are they trying to do, like what's there's got to be something to it. And so I don't know, I've kind of started getting up around then and then I just kind of kept with it. I like being up. I go out, yeah, usually look at the sunrise most every morning and be able to do that. But so you start
that's a
right,
beautiful thing.
yeah. So
But
you go
I'm in the
go
dining
ahead.
room writing, and I
Okay.
try to get all my writing done in the morning. I usually stop about 7 when my wife is up, and we sit down and have coffee together and talk and discuss whatever we need to talk about. Sometimes we debate politics and or whatever we're doing. That's when we really get a good conversation in. And then she goes to work. I get back to work.
Okay. So you have the pattern interrupt of a little coffee, or it's a break, I guess, but it's a good way to break that up and get your mind thinking about something else, have other conversations, get new points of views on whatever it is that you're talking with your wife about. And um I mean, does that affect your writing, or do you like when you're writing, do you have like outline? Do you have outlines, or do you and fill in the blanks, or are you just do like the Stephen King and just stay up for days on end, not knowing what you're gonna write and just go?
No, I'm a planner. I
Okay.
outline everything before I start writing. But the greatest challenge, especially in what I'm working on right now, but the greatest challenge is to really uh, develop characters that readers get excited about, or remember, or hate, or any kind of emotion you can create as a writer is good or
Right.
bad. And so as you're writing, these characters start taking over because they're alive. And all of a sudden, they're not following the outline. They don't say what you planned on them saying. They don't do what you want them to do. In my last book, I had a character I planned on killing and I couldn't get him killed. I tried the whole book to kill the character, and he avoided it the whole time, and it was very frustrating. Uh, uh, and once characters start doing that, then you have, if you're an outliner like I am, then you have to re-outline everything because now
Right.
it's changed. And then you
Right.
go a few chapters more, and then you have to do it again. So I'm constantly re-outlining because the characters have become alive, which is what you want. You want multi-dimensional, interesting people in your book.
Yep. As the guy who taught me about character work, you want to be able to have your character, if they go into a fast food restaurant and they mess up your order, you know exactly how that character is going to act. And like like you were saying, is the characters go on their own, and like that's a great problem to have. The characters are doing, what they're doing because that character, and that's how they would react to whatever, and that's a great problem to have. So, you know, redoing outlines is a good thing. That's
Yes.
yeah. And so that's also a pattern interrupt of that. And so what happens then with your flow of writing? Does it get stopped for a little bit, or does it get kind of redistributed and or redirected and go in that other direction just as strong as it was?
Okay, well, I have two answers.
Yeah, I
I have
have like
one
six
answer.
questions there. So
Right. I have two answers. The My answer for my first two books is I would let it go for a few chapters and then I'd re-outline, right? And
right.
and constantly do that. But in what the work that I'm working now, all of a sudden, uh, in the next book that I'm working on, I decided my intellectual challenge was to. Have you ever read Dunces of the Confederacy?
I have not.
Okay, it won a Pulitzer Prize. It was a one book author who, after he died, his mother pursued publishers until she blackmailed someone into publishing it. And then it won a Pulitzer Prize. And so that gives you hope if you're having trouble getting published. But uh,
Yeah.
the last
And
third of the
ideas.
book is you see the last third of the book, and you know why the publisher said, eh. But the first two thirds of the book is about one character, and they're so repulsive, so repugnant, so awful that you can't stop reading about them.
So
And I
oh,
still haven't forgotten it.
how do you do that where you or whoever the one who wrote that book, I mean, how do you get it so it's not just all horrible things they're doing, because they have to have those little tiny spots of good, or something to feel for them, like there's a show that I like watching called Eastbound and Down, and the character, he he's just a piece of crap guy, but he has these little tiny moments of him doing something nice or him being vulnerable about something. And is that kind of what they had to do with that book too? Because I mean, there has to be a reason, you know, for any story, for it to be, make you want to keep reading about it, or is it just he's just a horrible, horrible person?
Wrote it, so it's a humor is how you get is how he developed it. So not only are you constantly repulsed by this person, but you're constantly laughing with and at this person. And
Yeah.
uh, I actually had a real breakthrough in my writing uh, about a week ago, where I'm writing the book, which is the sequel to the first two books, but I wanted to have one of these characters. And about 2 weeks ago, while I'm in the process of writing, I'm already outside the outline, okay, that I was
Uh-oh.
in. So I was
Yeah.
already being led astray. And all of a sudden, I had this huge breakthrough. A character, he wasn't even an important character, I thought, to the book. He was a tertiary character. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, this is the guy. I found my guy. And I struggled for a week about what to do about it because this was not in the outline. It's completely outside the outline. What do I do? Because this is the guy. And then I finally just broke the chain and decided, okay, I'm going to write this guy. I'm going to write it to the end and then I'll deal with it.
So were you thinking in your head like to go for a spin-off with that guy into something else, or is it just are your characters in one book and that's it? There's no crossover of characters into other parts?
Well, before, if you'd asked me before this breakthrough, I'd have said, no, this is the third book in the three book. I don't use the word trilogy because oh, it sounds
Hmm.
narcissistic to talk about a trilogy. But when I want to write, if someone else gets to call things a trilogy, I'm not, or at least I pretend not to be narcissistic enough to use that word. Okay, so I would have
Okay.
said this is the third book in the set. I don't know where this guy's leading me though, because this guy's going to lead me through this book and I'm going to finish the first draft and then I'm going to figure it out because I don't know what this guy's going to do. He's,
Yeah.
but I have achieved both repulsiveness and humor,
So
and I
what was
can't
it about
believe it.
what was it about the character that you were able to not identify with, but I identify that this character is someone that needs to be developed more and explored more and become more of a integral part of the story.
His completely weak unawareness of anybody or the reality around him.
And
He's just not aware. It's just shocking.
and so then what would that be to the reader? Like, so what would the reader be? I mean, I don't know, because you can't really tell with the book. You can't really, I mean, they can take it a million different ways. They can paint a picture in the head a million different ways. So is that something that also that is difficult for you with uh people being able to take what you write and twist it a different way than how it's written, or does that matter to you, or do you encourage that?
Well, I have to admit, after listening to the responses of my first two books,
Yeah.
they're going to take it a different way than you intend anyway. Let me tell you a little story. I've tried over 100 jury trials. And when you're a lawyer and you're getting ready for a trial, you have a whole set of plans on how you're going to present the facts and what you're going to do if the other side presents these facts and what happens if this problem doesn't occur and what you want the jury to hear and what you don't want the jury to hear and what you want the jury to make their decision on. And I got it to, and after every trial, every, or jury trial, you'll have two or three people that want to talk. You'll have quite a few people that don't want to be bothered. They want to go home because they've been stuck in a jury room, or they don't want you uh, asking them questions about their opinion of what they thought because that's what they thought, and they don't want to hear your opinion about it. But there's always two or three people that want to hang on to their attention time just a little bit longer, and they want to talk. And I always listen to those people. And I have to tell you, more times than not, significant more times than not, the jury's decisions were on facts that are shocking to the lawyers. Both lawyers. I've stood beside my opponent several times and we just look at each other and can't believe that's what they decided on.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what readers do. Readers take themselves into a book, and they deal with a book within themselves, and they're going to take out of it depending upon who and where they are in their life.
and
And you can't control that.
and
And
so
I got to tell
how do you
you,
let that go?
you don't let it go. You embrace it, right? And that's why uh, the last half of my law practice, when I was trying cases, I embraced it then too, because I embraced chaos. I decided not only was I going to cause chaos, but I was going to make sure whatever outline the other lawyer had, whatever plans they had, those were
Yep.
destroyed, and we would go into chaos. And I think that's what you got to do as a writer. You take your readers as they are and who they are. And I use the responses to my books as educational, because uh, there turns out to be people that they want to know more about. Like in my first book, my antagonist, Marilyn.
Yeah.
Uh, I had, after that book, I was buried with questions about her, not anybody else. Well, there's one incident in the book that freaked people out. But besides that, they wanted to know,
It's a
why
good
does
thing.
this woman do that? What made her this way? How does she do that to men? And so the second book, one of the things I had to do, and this was my intellectual challenge for the second book, was I had to find the courage and the ability to write convincingly from the perspective of a woman. And I got to tell you, I found that a big challenge, and I had to have a lot of help and consulting uh, from women editors to tell me that's stupid, that's not right. I had one editor, and I'll always thank her for this. We were in the cigar bar, in fact, right?
Yeah.
And she came in and threw chapter 7 and 8 at me. She threw the pages at me, saying, "You're not getting it." And I remember the host cigar, there was like, "What the hell's going on? What's going on?" I was like, "That's okay. She's my editor." And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's Russell." So it was
Uh,
a great challenge. And I'm convinced I accomplished it, but I had to work hard at it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not a story that you can tell firsthand. It's a story that like you really have to know certain nuances that you wouldn't have known from personal experience. And so, I mean, but like you were saying, that everyone kind of puts their own personal experience into whatever they're reading. And do you think that's always the case? That wherever they are
Well,
in life, that's what they're doing? Or can people just read something objectively?
I hope that the last part is right. But I got to tell
Uh,
you, I answer the question differently than I used to. If you'd asked me this after Murder for Me came out, the first book, I'd have said,
yeah,
I would have said, I am not in all these characters. So some of these characters, these are bad characters.
right.
I'm not in them. I know now that I was wrong. There's something in me, something of me in each character, no matter how bad, or in my case, how good they are. Because
Uh,
frankly, I find black and white characters boring. I want multidimensional characters. I want people that have flaws. And so my protagonist is messed up. My antagonist, you see hope in her occasionally if you're
Yep.
deluded enough. And in the second book, I explain, okay, this is why she's the way she is. So maybe you can understand it a little bit, and you will.
What you said in the second book, you had a character from the first book? Is
I
that what you?
have quite a few characters because I have throughout the whole series, you have this know it all East
Re-
Texas police detective who is so tunnel visioned, he doesn't see anyone around him,
Yeah.
chasing uh, a woman who is always two moves ahead of him on the chessboard.
Okay.
And that's and so you whatever else is going along around them, like in the first book, I have a an attorney that is completely psychotic. In the second book, the whole thriller happened during a hurricane, and basically, it's because I've ridden out five hurricanes. Harvey, I was that hurricane lasted 5 days, and I was moving around town and doing stuff the entire hurricane. And you see things in a hurricane that you can't believe. You'd have to see it to believe it, and you don't want to forget it, and you don't want to ever be around it again. And so, uh, and I wanted to write about it, like when a manhole blows up and water spews up for 2 stories like a water fountain, or you
Whoa.
walk down a street with the water up to your knee, and through all the sewer gutters, there's fountains coming out all the way down the street.
Okay, yeah. That's
There's
some
things
yeah.
like that you got to write about if you see it. And
Yeah.
the thing that I wanted to write most about, and the scene in the book that I'm Murder by Storm that I'm very proud of, is during a hurricane, during these crises, America and we are very divided. A lot of hate, a lot of not wanting to be around people that disagree with you. But when
Right.
everyone's life is on the line, watching people risk their lives to help complete strangers, they don't care what they believe, they don't care what race they are, they don't care what they're risking their lives and they're helping people. When you see that, it does something to you. It did something to me. It was one of the greatest moments of my life was Hurricane Harvey and being out in the hurricane. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. And it was awful. And so I have a scene in there where two Sikh brothers uh, are driving through this hurricane in a uh, high lifted wrecker. And they see Marilyn, who had just been doing some really bad stuff, caught in the storm and about to go under, and they save her. They don't know her, they don't know who she is, but they save her. And I got to tell you, during Harvey, I saw that all the time, and I got to be involved in some of that. It changes your life, and I
Oh,
wanted to write about
that,
that.
yeah. Uh, then I mean, were there? And this is weird. Were you at any hurricane parties? Was that like part of it then too? Were like some of these people that had you know, some experience like that to get together and then are writing out the rest together? Like, what happens after that? Like, what do you do after you see someone get saved or someone gets saved or they save someone? Where do they go? Or they just go back to regular life?
Well, I got to tell you, different hurricanes uh, create different type of experiences. During Harvey, it was 5 days long. There was no time for parties because there was 52 inches of rain and it was all sideways. So during that time, I lived in a high rise, a 5-star high rise downtown. The Houston Rockets were my neighbors. And
Yeah.
right across this little park was the refugee center for thousands of people that his homes had been destroyed. And so for 5 days, I'd walk across this park and help the refugees as they were coming in, right? Trying to get warm, get new, fresh clothes, trying to find some semblance of pretend privacy because in those big halls you can't have real privacy, but you can have. And then after that, you didn't have time to celebrate because I never saw those people again. Uh, I got on work crews where one of the things about Houston is it's a city you move to work. You don't move there because it's beautiful. It's not that pretty. You don't move there for the weather because it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity all but, Christmas Day, and it's only 90 that day.
Yeah.
But so you have these people that had no family. They had no friends. And they were just sitting in these houses that had been destroyed. And we would go into these complete strangers. I didn't know anything about them. We would gut their home, get it ready for repair, and then move on to the next place. And they're just stunned, right? They're too shocked from what's happened
Yeah.
to them. And I never saw any of those people again, but they changed my life, being able to help them. And you do that until you physically can't do it anymore. In fact, it was so awful. Yeah, I would do it all day and I dream about what I'd done all night. Then the next thing you get up and do it again. That night you dream about it. It was awful. And you can't ever
Yeah.
get that smell off.
I bet. I
But I've
bet.
I've been in another hurricane where everyone in the side of Houston had no electricity for 3 weeks. And so every night someone would, because all the freezers weren't working, they would take all the hunting food, because these were all hunters, right? And they'd have a
Yeah.
huge barbecue, and all their friends would come and show up. We'd have a big party every night. So for 3 weeks, we partied every night.
That
That
seems like
was
an
so that was a different
yeah.
type of hurricane, different type of hurricane party. That was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you get yeah, a lot of people joining together that maybe wouldn't have joined together, that chaos creates some sort of outcome that wouldn't happen had there not been the chaos. There wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have met any of those people probably, or at least in the same sort of circumstances what you had. And that's wild. That's a whole different game with that. That's people that, you know, um, it'd be nice if there was some way like they would be able to meet up then afterwards, or keep in touch, but it's just that's it, and then you go on and it was just a part of your life that happened, and maybe get to, I don't know, return the favor down the line, or at least remember that, because
Here
that's
to tell
something
you,
that you don't hear about a lot.
you know, the people weren't looking. It was the great thing, the life changing thing about it was no one was looking during the hurricane and right after it for anything other than to help people. It was, if you want to believe in humanity, you want to experience that. But trust me, you don't want to go through something that creates humanity to behave like that, because it's awful. I actually
Yeah.
had friends that offered to come to Houston to help, and I was like, stay away. Don't even come. You don't want to be a part of this. And
Whoa.
we travel a lot, and we are chaotic in our travel because uh, the greatest moments in our travel, we've traveled pretty much all over the world, is being out with the people, eating street food, riding public transportation, not five-star restaurants. You're eating wherever they work.
Yep.
And
And
it's changing. That's also a life-changing experience. You can tell
yeah.
I do a lot of chaotic stuff.
Yeah, and I think the best way to see anything when you go somewhere new is to walk around, and rather than, I mean, you can cover a lot of ground driving a car and see a lot of things, but you don't really see anything. You see landmarks, and that's about it. You're not seeing the interaction with the other people. You're not going, and you're not getting that street food. Yeah, you probably, or if you are, it's taking pictures of it to put on social media or something like that for some reason. But it's all about that. Just, yeah, getting down there and getting to really experience what's going on. And so then does that then go through more into your writing? Is it using, you know, you said you already wrote a book about it, so I assume then that answer would be yeah. But I mean, is it like, I don't know, does that make you think differently about people, or I mean, like, what happens in everyday life? I mean, why, like, how does that become more of a reality in everyday life, or do you need to have that chaos to have that sort of relationship or experience?
Uh, no, I don't. I don't invite it. You know, if have you ever read any of Carl Jung's writings? He was an
A little
early
bit.
early therapist. Okay, so you
Yeah.
know about his philosophy that the way you get to a next level is through catastrophic events.
You will sleep better than you have ever slept. You've never been this relaxed. Are you ready to change your life? I'm Rusty Diamond, certified hypnotist. You don't need to leave your house. You can stay in your bed. You can stay in your favorite chair. You just need a computer or your phone. You can get a hold of me. Stay at home. I'll make your life better.
Hypnosisisgreat.com.
And the only
Okay.
way you can achieve more consciousness, you can't do it intentionally, you can't do it meditatively. You can only achieve uh, absorbing more of your subconscious into your conscious is through catastrophic events. Well, that has been my experience. And I do not invite more catastrophic events. So I do not, I do not want to raise to a higher level. But
Right.
I guess it just makes me more cynical about the world that we're in right now because I've seen what can be and what is, and
Uh,
what shallowness or a lack of understanding or a lack of interest or a lack of will leads us to.
And yeah, I mean, you know that there's that good in people, and people can just walk right past that and yeah, only have that certain reason of not wanting to even talk to someone or, like, but then like if there was some catastrophic event, would they do that? Would they go and help that person? I mean, I could, if the, I don't know. I've unfollowed so much crap on social media, but I have seen, kind of what's happening with that. But I mean, as of right now, how many people that would theoretically be like, oh, okay, if this person was in some catastrophic event, I'd probably just flip them off and tell them to go fuck themselves and you're on your own. But then when that catastrophic event happens, like I'd hope that's not the case. And they realize that like what they're saying is kind of ridiculous and so wrong for what in any outlook on life to be able to just have to think, yeah, I wouldn't help this person. Like this person doesn't care about me or whatever else. And but then if something was happening, I don't know. I hope that their views would change. I'd hope their views would change before that, but even then, it seems that I don't know. But I know a lot of people would, right? Say forget them. Like I don't.
Well, you would think that. But I got to tell you, if the event is bad enough, you will be stunned at how many people will be there. You will be
That's
stunned because I was stunned. I
yeah.
was shocked.
Yeah. And you said you had people that were wanting to come from out of town and to help out. And, you know, there's a lot of people, even like with the or is that North Carolina stuff that was
Yes.
happening recently, the floodings
Asheville
and
was destroyed.
Asheville.
They
Yeah.
still haven't found people that disappeared during the storm.
Yeah. And a lot of people are wanting to help out there any way they can, just to, because you gotta. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. And I think more stories like that should be out in the world. And then that's a good conversation and story to get out into the world. And that's important. Like that there is stuff more than just everything being so black and white. There are character flaws, but those character flaws are what make us who we are. And that's what makes a story interesting. That's what makes a character interesting. And yeah, not everything is black and white. And I think that's important. And um, so where are people gonna find you and your work and your books and everything else? How's that gonna? how are they going to find you here in the world?
Well, Murder by Storm and Murder for Me are both on Amazon. That's always the
Nice.
best place to look for anything that we almost get in life now, apparently.
Yeah. Right.
uh, they can find more out about me from russelllittleauthor.com. I put uh, my interviews. This interview will be there
Oh, all right.
eventually. Uh,
Sorry for your website
no, no.
after
I mean,
that.
it's important. They can see us because can I tell you, our conversation today has been completely different than anyone I've had.
That is exactly what I'm looking for. And because like, thank you for saying that. Because that's what I want. Because there's a lot where, I can ask you questions that you probably answered a lot of times. Uh, the what do you write on? Do you write on your phone, on a computer, legal pad, journal, or whatever, or stone and chisel, like those kind of questions. Or why did you start writing? Like I'm sure you've answered those a lot of
Everybody
times.
asks that. That's boring.
Yep. Yeah, right. And that's what I want to avoid. And I don't like that's not how you get to really know somebody. And that's not the conversation that needs to get out in the world. Like that's why you have them on your website. You can go, if you want to know more about me, if you want to know those questions, here's an interview with literally all that right here.
Right. Here's 20 interviews with that
Right.
on there right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I appreciate you for going out and venturing out into a different part of the podcast world to do this. So I'm happy we got to have our conversation. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking and going a little interrupting the pattern of life. And so thank you for that. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. I had one little question. So you were a lawyer in Houston. I don't know if this was in Houston, because I think it happened in Galveston. So would that be the same jurisdiction, or would that be further out?
Yeah, I practiced in both jurisdictions. You don't
Okay.
practice in one without the other.
Okay. So there was a case back in maybe 2000, Robert Durst, who was,
Yeah, I've
uh,
met him several times.
oh, can we talk about that for a few minutes? Is that okay?
Sure.
Or do you not want to?
Uh, you will be disappointed, but I'll be glad to talk about it
Okay. What will I be disappointed in?
because it's shallow and just beating. It's not
Okay.
talking or knowing.
It's okay. Then that's cool. Then let's leave it. Then that's okay. I was just curious about that. But if that's what it is, and that's something that can probably be found on other podcasts, so we can check that out some other time. But cool.
No,
So
nobody's going to ask me about Durst. Nobody
perfect.
else is going to ask me.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much again. And I had a great time talking with you. And uh, yeah, hope you get to enjoy the rest of your day. And I don't know. I should get you back here in the next year or so and bring you back on, talk again.
I
Okay.
would love to come back.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, hey, you have a good day and we'll talk soon. All right.
Okay, have a great day.
All right. Thank you. All right. That's Russell Little. Yeah. Like you get that conversation. It's a little bit different. That's what this is. And so I'm really happy you said that. That made me feel good that, a little something different for the show. And I like it that way because, yeah, there's plenty of other shows where you can get those questions. And I mean, you probably want to know more about him. And so go to his website and you can find that. You can go to those other interviews where you can get those questions that he's answered a number of times. So thank you everyone so much for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. Check me out, rustydiamond.net, hypnosisisgreat.com, popuphealing.net, and you can also go if you want to get if you want to do some floating, some float room, sensory deprivation tank, whatever you want to call it. If you're in Philadelphia, you can go to Westchester, Pennsylvania, or you can go to Princeton, New Jersey, and you can get the Rusty Diamond hypnosis special at those places. The East Coast Floats Ball. Just tell him Rusty sent you. And that's about it. So you can check the show out on YouTube. If you don't want to look at my fucking mug, you can listen anywhere you listen to podcasts or watch on Rumble again, just watching me again. So thank you everybody for being here. And that is the show, man. Boom!
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.